How to create a succession plan for employees. By the end of this video, you're going to have a step-by-step plan on how to delicately start to communicate this idea that could cause chaos, but instead you're going to choose clarity. You take this idea of succession planning, you move too fast, you're going to create false hope. You move too slow, you're going to create chaos. And before you ask any questions, you need to know the one question that 99% of owners fail to ask. As we get started on this video, I kind of want to talk slower. Why? It's because succession planning is all about discretion and wisdom. Now don't worry, I'm not going to talk slow the whole time. I just wanted to kind of slow you down around this. A lot of times when owners get to this conversation about transition, exit, succession, they tend to speed things up. Why? It's because they want to get to the Bahamas. They want to get out of here. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of doing all of this. And yet when we're talking about exit planning, transition planning, we need to slow down. Just take a deep breath, because there's clarity on the other side of that. There is one group of owners that what they tend to do is just speak too loud and they speak in hypotheticals. But here's what I want you to remember. Anything that comes out of your mouth as the owner of the business, it comes out as gospel to everybody who's hearing it, even though it might have been hypothetical to you. Did you get that? When a word comes out of your mouth, boom, it has impact. So if you move too fast on this idea of succession planning and exit planning, you have a real opportunity to create false hope. Well, you said that I was going to be an owner. Well, you said that you were going to be out of here. Well, you said this. We've got a client right now, and they're in a multi-hundred-million-dollar business in a very large industry in construction. And in it, the chief financial officer has been talking about for 3 years that he's ready to leave. And he's going to do it, and he's going to do it. And what he's done is he created false hope to everybody around, and he has zero intention of leaving. When that happens, what you do is create ultimate frustration. Now, it's seated frustration. Most people won't come out and tell you, but what it will do is we'll start to breed this frustration over time, and eventually you're going to start to lose great people, frankly, that your succession and transition depends on. Move too fast. There's a proverb that says this: a fool who keeps his mouth shut is considered wise. A lot of times when it comes to succession, it's better to think 3 times before you cut once. Now, there's a flip side of this. Is if you're too quiet and too slow, what can start to happen is you breed something else, and that is rumors and falsity that comes out. Proverbs 16 says that gossip separates even the best of friends. And so there might be people that you've worked with in your business for 5, 15, 25, 35 years, and yet you start to move too slow on this, and it's going to create separation the more of this gossip that starts to breed in. That's where I want to call us back to wisdom and discretion. In fact, there's a word that I love to use, I think is very helpful when it comes to succession planning, and that is the word shrewd. Look it up. I want you to do a deep dive on that one word, and you can start to see the value of being able to be shrewd. That is both discreet and wise. So as you're thinking about succession planning, first thing I do need to tell you is this: thank you. Thank you for making the time. This is important, not only for you, but it's important for your team as well. Your team has made a commitment for their livelihoods to be built on the back of your business. And so it's wise for you to make time to think through this. Now, there's a key question I want you to ask, and that is, as you're doing succession planning, what do you want to cause? In fact, I would encourage you to ask that question across multiple facets of life. And whatever you're about to do, the conversations you're about to have, the interactions you're about to have, what do you want to cause, especially in hard conversations? When you go into a really hard conversation, we're prone to get the emotions up, the heartbeat rises, and if we start to say things we don't want to say, ask yourself the question, what do you want to cause? Again, slow down. Now, there's a secondary question to ask this, because you've already written out your vision story by going and watching that powerful video I've got it linked in the description below, to actually how to build out a vision story top to bottom. So that's your clarity for where to go. So this is a powerful question you can ask after what I want to cause and what I've created with the vision story, and that is, what value do I want to offer to my employees? Now, I'm going to give you one hint, and I think the value is clarity. I think that's what you want to offer, and quite frankly, after talking to so many employees from working with business owners over the years, I think that's what they want most, is this idea of clarity. I'm going to walk through a couple of mechanisms at a very high level of some things I think will be very helpful for you to think when it comes to clarity for your team members, and some methods that you can go through. The first method I want to walk you through is something called phantom stock. Now, as a reminder, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA, so you want to make sure that you talk to certified, professional, and licensed financial advisors. when you're talking about the details of these things. I'm just giving you an educational overview so that you can start to think through some of that clarity you want to provide. Number one is that phantom stock idea. This is basically giving some version of equity without giving actual equity in terms. So what phantom stock does is it's actually not issued stock, it's phantom, thus in the name, and there's different businesses that can help support this right now, but what it does is it gives the employee the opportunity to have some version of stock without actual equity in the business. Phantom stock has made a resurgence here of late, and I think it's something very well worth you looking up, and it's a really, really good starter option when you're looking to give clarity to some of your longer-term employees. A second tool that you can look up and start to research a little bit and talk to an advisor about is a non-qualified deferred compensation plan. What is that? Well, let's say that some of your employees start to achieve some milestones in a quarter or in a month or in a year, and you want to, in effect, provide a place that they can be long-term. So here's what you do. You not only compensate them a piece now for the success that they've had, but you also retain a piece of their compensation long-term. It's a non-qualified deferred compensation. So we're going to defer some of that compensation maybe 2 years out or 3 years out or 4 years out, and that compensation is theirs if they stay. Now, if they leave, that compensation, because it's non-qualified deferred comp, theoretically can come back to the business and you can begin to leverage that deferred compensation to find the replacement if that happens. But you'd rather that not happen. The goal is to keep and retain long-term team members, and it's a next step to be able to do it. So we have phantom stock and we have non-qualified deferred compensation. There's a third element that is way more involved. So I want to tell you up front, it's super involved and you will have to talk to a specialist about this. It's expensive and it takes a while to implement. So you're like, wow, that's not much of a sales pitch. But the value on the other side is extraordinary. In fact, I would argue that it's mountainous. But again, you need to talk to somebody. It's called an ESOP, or an employee stock ownership plan. So with an ESOP, you can sell a particular percentage of your business, and as long as you sell over a certain threshold of that business, the federal government actually offers some tax incentives, some generous tax incentives, between about 30% and 100%. Again, talk with an ESOP advisor about this. But the other value of an employee stock ownership plan is it gives your employees stock ownership in the business. So now all of a sudden, every employee is some measure of owner, and you can still add certain employees to higher levels of employee ownership. But the nice thing about an ESOP as well is that it allows you to maintain control over the day-to-day, even up to a minimal percentage of what you want to sell. There's multiple ways you can sell, but it's a way for an owner to get equity off the table. Does it hang your business with debt? Yes. The good news is the federal government provides expedited ways for that debt to be paid off much quicker, and once the debt's paid off, you still garner the tax benefits for the life of the business. It's a powerful model that I would encourage you to start to research. There's also a misnomer that a lot of businesses can't because they're, quote, too small. That may not be true. There are a lot of financial advisors who just don't want to work with smaller clients, and that's why they might say, no, you have to be this or more. So really, the size of your business, it's more about, it's going to help if you're in the millions of revenue and not in the hundreds of thousands. But the reality is it's worth having a conversation with somebody about an ESOP. I'm going to leave you with a little teaser on the ESOP. I actually think it's one of the most generous ways that you can success, transition, and exit your business. But that's all I'll give you. Leave you a little teaser, you go figure it out. A final tool is kind of the most obvious, and that is just individual shares or equity buy-in from employees. So where they actually buy in at 5%, 10%, 15, 25, whatever percentage you want. Here's why I ask you to use wisdom and discretion. Whatever decision you make now will follow the business forever. This is why terms are so important, and this is why forethought is so important to be able to think about. There's too many owners that go, yeah, I'll just give her 10% or 20% or whatever. Just so you know, I'm not a fan of just raw gifting of equity. There's got to be a lot of blood and sweat and tears. That's great. And yet, there's got to be some cash buy-in. A dear mentor, late Dan Miller, used to tell me this all the time. Scott, if they're not paying attention. And the reality is you need vigilance when they come in. Could you discount? Yes, there's a variety of things that you can do. But individual shares where they buy in or they're gifted in, but this is my personal opinion, I'm not so much of a fan of just gifting it. Even to family, I'm not a fan of that. I think there's got to be some skin in the game around what you're doing with that. So tread lightly into that, use wisdom, use discretion. Another powerful tip for you, write your vision down, create that clarity. That's your ultimate strategic plan. I have got a video that will blow your mind. It'll walk you step by step through how to walk and build out your vision story. So click on the link below in the descriptions. It'll be well worth your time. I promise you. Just get a scratch sheet of paper, a pen, and a timer, and it'll be well worth your time. My name is Scott Beebe. We work with business owners 3 to 100 employees so that you can be liberated from chaos and transition your business well.